fact that we're doing something that is going to unite the community and bring us closer together because, as Kimon has stated, I started Bookapalooza back in December. The reason why is because I'm a first grade reading teacher. And I always tell my kids, you have to read 30 minutes a night. And I tell the parents, you have to read 30 minutes a night with your children. 15 minutes you reading, 15 minutes they're reading, 15 minutes you're reading. Share that time. But a lot of comeback that I got from my kids when I asked them, are you reading at home, is, I don't have any books. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have any books? Everybody has books. I had all the books in the world when I was growing up, a tall stack. And that's when it hit me, and that's when I had to climb down off of my privileged horse. And I had to realize that books are a privilege. To own a book is a privilege. And a lot of our children are walking around and they don't have books. But yet you can see on the corner stores, they have access to liquor. They have access to cigarettes. They have access to the new Jordans. You have access to hair supply stores. You have access to unhealthy food because besides East of the River being a literacy desert, it's also a food desert. However, I digress. So when it came to me realizing that my children did not have the adequate resources to go and even purchase a book, to even have their own library just to pick up and to read and not worry about a return fee or library cards and things along those natures, I realized they couldn't. There are literally no bookstores on this side of the river, so I started a book drive, a literacy campaign called Bookapalooza to shed light on the fact that 1 in 3 adults on Ward 8 are illiterate, to show the fact that the reading gap takes place and is vital and it increases in between the grades of pre-K 3 and 8th grade. Hence why all the books are curtailed to pre-K 3 and 8th grade. We accept all books because, as Malcolm X said, it is time for us to start trying to integrate and it is time for us to liberate. And this bookstore, in honor of Charnice Milton, is the liberation to which this community needs. So, without further ado, I would thank you again for coming out tonight and listening to us and supporting. Donate books. By all means, please donate books. We need books. So if you know anybody, tell a friend, bring books. We're also going to have a kickoff event. The admission will most likely be books. You have to bring books.
It's often been said that if you want to hide something from black people, where do you put it? In the book. We need to break that cliche, okay? This is an effort to break that cliche. And one of the things that we was challenged was that there's no bookstores in East River. That's because, they don't make money. And I said, okay, well, we'll put it in the basement where we won't charge a separate entity rent, okay? So this does not have to make money. It just has to make sense, all right? Oh, well, they have libraries east of the river, and that's another insult. Because that's like saying, what are you going to do with a bookstore type of thing? Or you don't have health care, but you can go to the emergency room. We got to understand that all these are attacks on our intelligence, okay? And we need to understand that, all right? That is why we're here, okay? So having said that, I wanted to introduce someone who is also an independent media outlet, who is here, who is not just here for today to get a quick shout out and a plug and not contribute to the movement. This is someone, when I called on him, he was there when I needed him. And so please put your hands together for Andrew Lightman of Capital Community News and Charnice's editor. Ladies and gentlemen.
Charnice Milton, Charnice Milton showed up in my life one day when I was sitting at my desk working on East of the River, actually. We've been running, I guess East of the River is about 10 years old now. Our other sister publication, The Hill Rag's, about 40. And we distribute 12,000 east of the rivers in Wards 7 and 8 and try to tell the stories of everybody that lived here. And we employ a lot of writers, among them Charnice, who live east of the river. Charnice showed up in my life because my mother and she had gone over to Eastern Market to have breakfast and walked by our door. We have a sign. And her mother pointed that sign out and said, well, that's where they publish the newspaper. And Charnice said to her mom, well, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to ask them for a job. And she knocked on my office and she walked in. Charnice was a highly educated young lady. She'd gone to Syracuse, finished her MA in journalism at Syracuse. But she was also painfully shy and had a little bit of a speech impediment. Not somebody you would think right off the top of your head it would scream journalist. But Charnice was one of the hardest working people I have ever met in my life. Nothing faze that young lady. And she went from doing one piece for me to the year, I think the month that before she was murdered. In fact, actually I guess it was the June paper, she had 7 or 8 pieces. We had really, and I expected that for the next 10 years, in the next actually couple of months, she was going to move to a major daily, and I was going to be writing recommendations for her for the next 20, 30 years. She was just a wonderful young woman. And personally, I'm still really, really angry. It's one thing if somebody doesn't try. This is a young woman who was really going places, who was just minding her business, traveling back from covering a meeting for me at Easter Market, and had her life taken from her for absolutely no reason. And I don't know about you, but I am angry to this day. And I'm also angry because there were a lot of people that were around on the day she was shot. There were a lot of people there. When a young woman recently was gunned down at Potomac Gardens, people came out, and that man was caught in short order. When an American college student, a university student, was shot in Shaw, they had the people that shot him within a week or two. It's not actually about the police, it's about us. And when we don't care, when somebody's life was taken from them in our community, shame on us. Because we can't bring, that woman did more for people around her. I mean, you talk to Kathy Lanier, you talk to anybody who she interviewed, she left a lasting impression. And so it's it's perfect that you're naming a bookstore after her, because she loved to read. And I hope, as I said to her mother and father, that you have a large science fiction section with lots of books on Doctor Who and murder mysteries, because she loved both those things. And our newspaper stands behind you in this. We will give you advertising and we will give you support. So that's all I have to say.
Andrew Lightman, Capital Community News. Please stay to the end. We're going to take a photo. All of us going to pick up a copy of the East of the River magazine, and we're going to take a photo with that, because that is why we're here. We're here to represent East of the River. All right. Now, we need to understand that Charnice was killed by ignorance. Okay? That's what killed her. Ignorance killed her. And for an angel such as her, such a vessel who's just a pure soul, to be killed by ignorance is unforgivable. And the only thing that we can do to truly honor her is to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen. And so what are we doing to mentor young people in our communities? We all know one knucklehead somewhere. Why don't we grab that knucklehead and do something, okay? Today I was on the playground, and I just realized that it's not a good time to take your 7-year-old to the playground right after school lets out, because the big kids out there on the playground and they talking big trash. So instead of me just shaking my head and leaving with my 7-year-old, I confront the big kids who are talking trash on the little kids' playground as respectfully as I can, and told them that you've been disrespectful. I'm sure you don't intend to, but you're on a little kid's playground and they're listening to you. You know, now there was some mumblings under their breath, but guess what? They stopped. That's right. But if I hadn't done something, they would never stopped. So some of this is on us. Some of this is on us, okay? So let's all make this a personal issue. So when this bookstore opens, all right, and we're claiming it. We claiming it. We gotta raise this money to get this bookstore open, and I don't expect it to come from you. I'm not asking you for a dime. I'm asking you for your moral support. Grab one youngin' and bring him in here. That's what you do, because you don't have money, but you got resources. You got access to the problems. Bring the problems in here. I'll go get the resources. All right? That's our partnership. and come back on May 27 and bring some of those problems back here with you. Okay? All right. Just want to get that off my chest because I am mad as hell and I ain't taking it no more. I'm here in Anacostia not because the rent is cheap, and Lord knows it ain't. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm wanted to be on Martin Luther King Avenue where the problem is. All right? So I said to get that out. I'm sorry, I don't want to take up too much time. So now coming to the podium now is the father of the young lady that we are here to honor. Please put your hands together for Kenneth McClinton, who has founded the Open Heart Closed Case Foundation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Reverend Oliver O.J. Johnson, Baptist preacher from More Than Amazing Grace Ministries. I'm an 8th generation Washingtonian. My family has lived in this community around the corner from here for 4 generations. And I would like to say to you that God has a purpose. He has a purpose for us all. And whenever anyone comes into my home, I always extend them the invocation. I always extend them the thanks, because that's the way we were raised here in what we used to call downtown Anacostia. My parents and ancestors used to pray at the wall of St. Elizabeth. You may have heard of some people who also pray at what is called a Wailing Wall. Yes, sir. So we didn't come on a Pinta, we didn't come on a Nina, and we didn't come on a Greyhound bus. We escaped from Robert E. Lee's plantation, settled in Foggy Bottom in Georgetown, and we've been here ever since. So what I want to say to you as a parent who lives around the corner, raised 5 children, grandmother on welfare, mother on welfare. 2 of my 5 children coming through Union Temple and More Than Amazing Grace Ministry are ministers, ordained ministers. So they're diamonds in your own backyard. And I would just like to say to you, I would issue or ask you in the name of whatever God that you worship, that you approach your faith organization, because most religions are based on love. And in my religion, there are 66 books in our Bible. And I will approach our churches to give 66 books. Give a book for whatever the number of books that's in your spiritual guide, be you Muslim, be you Baptist, and believe me, if you approach the faith community, which is a community that should be based on love, you will get a whole lot of books. Because if you ask them for their spiritual guidance and their spiritual books, they'll give them to you. Go to a hotel, you may be able to take a few. The Gideons put theirs there. Our people can put ours here. And these parents, let me tell you, the strength that God has put in these parents is far beyond anything. And when I was asked to come here today, as a parent, and watching them on TV and every other place that they are, and to see their spiritual strength, to see their love for their daughter, it is one amazing thing when you know that God is working in a person and God is working in a family. Because as a parent, I could tell you, these people's heart has been torn out every time that they come before people. Even though they appreciate and everything, their daughter is brought to them in graphic terms. So give them your love and give them your support. Do those things that you do. But welcome to my community, and may God put blessing and purpose in your life. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. God bless you.
Good afternoon. I'm Francine, Charnice's mom. One of the things about books and Charnice, you have to know that Charnice could read before she could speak. She had no conversational speech, but before she was 3, she could read anything and read it clearly. She stuttered when she talked. She had no conversational speech. When you asked her a question, you would hear blah, 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 blah. But she knew what she was saying. But when she picked up a book, including the Bible, she could read every word very clearly. She loved books. By the time she was in first grade, she read 100 books in one summer because that's what she loved to do. And that she carried with her through school, through high school, through undergrad at Ball State University, and through grad school at Syracuse. She loved books. So if there's one thing that I know that she would love to give, is opportunity for other children to grow up with books like she did. So I'm just so excited about that opportunity. I look at her books in her room. She has a whole wall full of books in her room. And between her and our baby Jasmine, who's back there, they had books in the house. They read all the time. So just the opportunity that we can give some of that back to the community, back to other children, because that's knowledge. And they can do everything. That's power. They can do everything. She was a can-do kid, and she would always be known as a can-do kid. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. She carried that with her. She was always a can-do kid. If you want your kids to become can-do kids, give them a book and start reading with them. And most importantly, let them see you read, because it's contagious. Thank you.
Grab the book. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Captain Haith, my great love, Detective Chanel Howard, and all the others of the Metropolitan Police Department, I know what you do, and I know how hard it is when you're this close to finding the people who killed our daughter, and yet there are just not enough whisperers, not enough people coming forward. You mentioned earlier, come on, how can you hide something from black people? You put it in a book. Well, how can you hide justice from a community? You keep the killer at bay. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't come here to berate, to show hostility, because my wife and I have extended forgiveness to those who have killed our daughter. But beyond the spiritual, there is a fleshly thing that has to take place in terms of justice. If my daughter's killers are still out there, then none of us are safe. There will be no peace and there will be no justice until they are brought to justice. So I say this to you all. As my wife and I are beginning to go through my daughter's extensive library and prepare to make a donation, and we're making a donation tonight of these 2 special books that my daughter loved, I want you not only to support this endeavor, because I've heard people also say, well, you do have a library over there. Can't they get the books from there? I notice when you get your mocha latte over in Adams Morgan, you don't ever ask yourself where the library is.
Go ahead, bro.
Now, Kimon and I, if we ever sat down at the chessboard, we would have different opinions on everything else in life. But there is one thing that we do share. And I just want to announce tonight that the C.J. Walker Foundation will be contacting Kimon next week about bringing a program to help you all with the support of the book program. The one thing that we agree on is that everything is possible. We have a group of children who have been raised in our community not to believe that. Our daughter didn't, because she opened a book and she dreamed a dream and it came to pass in her life. That same thing can happen to every one of our children in Washington, D.C., and especially Ward 7 and Ward 8. I don't need a politician to free me. I don't need a banker to give me wealth. I need the ability to know that my God has me on his side, and that whatever he puts before me, I can do. I pray that every child that walks through this bookstore has that same love and same affection, and every parent who brings them. When they look down at their child, as we looked at our child who stumbled and stammered for the majority of her life, even though when she sang beautifully, You couldn't tell that she had a speech impediment, who was so shy she didn't want to even knock on the door at the community news center. I want you to know that everything was possible for her, and she made it happen. Everything is possible here at the Charnice Milton Bookstore, and you can make that happen. We want to donate now. Come on, if we could take this moment, come forward. I want to thank you so much for honoring our family. And we would like to give these books in donation to you as a start of our commitment. These are two of her favorites. And it's kind of difficult to say what a favorite book was of hers because she just kept reading over and over everything. But those are part of her favorite library. We took them from her very private shelf today. And we want you to know that we're behind you every step of the way.
This is very symbolic for me because not only do I love peach cobbler, this is a purple book. And if you would notice, in our newly renovated studios here at Anacostia Radio, thank you to the Great Streets Grants for working with us. We have a purple wall. That wall is purple because, unbeknownst to me at the time, I'm a Green Fall Fellow. It's a green organization about sustainability and basically going back to the roots. And so we created a community garden with their support. Unbeknownst to me, Prince Rogers Nelson funded that organization, which means he funded that community garden we have behind the studio. That would be also a reading area for people at the, this bookstore. So that wall is purple for Prince, and this purple book would be a nice contribution to that as well. So thank you so much. I'm a little overwhelmed with the symbolism. So, but thank you. I just want to say that, you know, Marcus Garvey said, "A people without vision perish." So I've had an empty basement that needs to be renovated for 5 years since I've been here, and I've tried everything to do to renovate it, and I gave up on it. And I thought it was just a throwaway space, and can't do nothing with it. You know, it's too much money to fix it. You know, it gets wet when it rains and what have you. We use it as a storage facility and try to put as much we can on pallets to keep it off the wet floor. And then it occurred to me, why I can't use it? Why? There's no such thing as throwaway spaces, throwaway books, or throwaway children. And that's what we need to do if we're going to talk about green. Let's recycle that. Let's have a sustainability plan for that. Let's have a retainment plan for the people who are here. And I just want to get that out there that, you know, Alice Walker, going back to the color purple again, she said that the greatest power is convincing people they don't have any. That's right. When you walk out this door, I want you to walk out this door knowing that you are not poor, that you are not disenfranchised, that you are incapable, or you are less than. You are perfectly divine as you are. Somebody just has more than you have. And it's not because they better than you, smarter than you, or more capable than you. They just was born with more than what you was born with. And unfortunately, no matter what they tell you in America, if you were born rich, most likely you're going to die that way. And if you was born poor, most likely you're going to die that way. And that's what you got a hook shot, or you know how to do some entertainment. This is a reality for us. But when we read books, our options change. It expands our horizons. So I want to make sure that we all walk out here feeling an inch taller than when we came here, because they would beat us down outside that door. But inside this door and inside this community bookstore, we're going to build people up. And we're going to take them where they are, and we're going to give them as much experiences that we have, because something happens magically when you read a book. Criminals go to prison, and they sit down, and they begin to read, and something happens. Right. Malcolm X was built behind those walls reading books. They know the power of them. That is why they have that stigma that we're going to change. If you want to hide something from, put it in a book. We're going to destroy that, right? Yes. That's going to be our motto, to destroy that. Absolutely. And shout out to the next person that's coming out here, because he introduced me to the gentleman that runs the Upshur Street bookstore. He's going to give me his name. I'm sorry I don't have his name in front of me. and he says that every neighborhood deserves a bookstore. So put your hands together for someone who's been putting a lot of work in this and is partially responsible for getting us this far. John Mueller, who is also with Capital Community News at East of the River.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. It's very important that everyone's gathered here. Personally, I've known Kimon for almost 15 years. I was a young person who saw him recite poetry at the steps of Lincoln Memorial on the 40th anniversary of the March on Washington. I just drove my bike down there. I got a little lost, and he was up there on the steps, and I've known him for many years. And so I think this is a natural partnership, us having a chance to work together. I write for East of the River newspaper. I've been writing now for 5 or 6 years. Andrew Lightman is like a big brother and uncle to me. I did not know Charnice very well. I only had a handful of conversations with her. My more relationship with her, looking back, is really trying to keep her off of my beats, because she would take my beats from me. She definitely took the arts beat from me. And she, actually, my first introduction, I did not physically meet her. She had emailed me. My daytime, I work for the DC Public Library and do a couple other things. But she had emailed me about Berry Farm. I had kind of fallen behind on following what was going on with the New Communities Initiative. And she just emailed me out of the blue and said, "Hey, John, how are you? My name is Charnice. Can you send me your contacts and what's going on and tell me, you know, where I am, where I need to follow the story?" And I emailed Andrew and said, "What's going on? Who is this? Are you taking me off my beat? What's happening?" So she was very ambitious, very aggressive. She was a heck of a reporter. I would pick up East of the River, and before even looking at my stories, I would look at her byline and say, "Oh, she had 3 or 4 or 5 stories. I only have 1 or 2. I need to catch up." I never did catch up. Yeah. People out here, I got actually going to a meeting over at the old police warehouse. They're having a building about Mapleview Flats as we speak right now, so I'm going to have to run. But when you're reporting out here, waiting for the late night buses or coming from the PD Green Center, walking down MLK or whatever it is, it's a little dangerous. And it's a front, as a lot of people in this community obviously know, it's front lines, and Charnice was a frontline reporter. She wasn't in Afghanistan or Iraq, but she was definitely entrenched in the community. And the museum issue, hopefully we can maybe change that. Her name was not on the wall of slain journalists. Hopefully we can maybe change that with this. Lastly, Frederick Douglass, his house is right around the corner. As those are familiar with Frederick Douglass's life story in his 1845 autobiography that he wrote while he was a runaway slave, he's talked about the importance of reading and the importance of books and the importance of reading and writing and how they were very instrumental to his self-liberation. And Frederick Douglass is arguably the most consequential African-American civil rights leader of the 19th century, even of our country. He's definitely an epic American person. So I think it's very appropriate, fit, and proper that we're opening a bookstore. Kimon is taking the lead. I know he's going to do this the right way, and I know that Charnice's parents are going to make sure that this is done the right way. And I really don't know what to say other than thank you very much for being here, and let's make sure we all support this with time and patronize the bookstore. And I think the May 27th event, which is from 12 to 4, May 27th, it'll be a cookout. We're still working on the details and plans, but bring books. There'll be books to for your young children and cousins. And am I missing anything? And thank you once again for being here. Thank you so much.
Woo! They're getting big. Okay. Before I bring up Captain Anthony Hayes, the MPD Homicide Branch, I want to clarify something. If I had break-ins in my studio here, stuff was taken, insurance paid for it. I didn't do my due diligence to turn over the tapes and give it to the police because, you know, what was stolen was recovered, basically. And I didn't want to contribute to the largest prison industrial complex the world has ever known. But if someone was to take the lives of these little girls that I'm holding right here, and I knew who did it, I might get to you before the police do. That's right. But if I don't, you sure can bet I would tell them everything I know. That's not snitching. Right. Understand the difference. Right. We need to break that mold right there. Understand the difference. If A and B go do something, and B gets caught and tell C who A was, that's snitching. Y'all was in it together. But taking innocent lives and we being quiet about it because we scared, my heart don't pump no Kool-Aid and neither should yours. All right? Let's break that. Let's break that cycle. Put your hands together for Officer Friendly, Captain Anthony Hay, MPD, Homicide Division. And you heard that round of applause. I'm going to be calling on the FOP for support and the police union for support and the fellow police officers for support. So let them know we coming.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for inviting me for this dedication ceremony for Charnice Milton for this library. And I actually sit back and I listen to every speaker, as I do anyway. One speaker that I really listened to was Mr. Lightman when he spoke about the fact of individuals not coming forth. And what's most important in any homicide case is citizen input. The citizens, the folks who actually see what happened, who stand out there that refuse to give us information. When a homicide branch makes a quick closure of a case, as Mr. Lightman spoke of, that's normally because the citizens of Washington, D.C. have come forward, given up the information that we need to lead to an arrest in those cases. I, too, am a Washingtonian, born and raised in Washington, D.C., attended McKinley Tech High School over in Northeast. So I love the city. I'm not going to say that I still reside in the city, but all of my work and my business is in the city. I'm here most of the time. I bring my kids here on the weekends, and I just love the city, period. It's just that simple. I lived in Ward 8 up off of Martin Luther King Avenue, up by Ballou for a long period of time. Grew up in the Shaw area of D.C. All of that. So, I mean, I really love this city, and I think that when we have murders in which, in the case of your daughter, and you have individuals who we know were out there, who saw what happened, businesses who seemed at some point to neglect from turning over video, as you spoke of, things of that nature. If it was my family member, I would be turning over everything. And myself, I probably would lose my job going out to try to deal with whoever did harm to my family. So I say that to say Detective Chanel Howard, who's standing behind me, who is the lead detective in this case, has done a great job of interviewing in excess 30, 40, 50 people. And her work won't stop. It won't stop. I have about 3 years left on the police department, and in my 3 years, we will definitely, as she will, we will continue to dedicate the resources that we need to try to close this case. But again, citizen input, those individuals who still have information are key and important. Some folks she may have to go back and interview. I was actually reading over the case recently, and she's interviewed some folks numerous times, the same people. So I say that the Metropolitan Police Department Homicide Branch does a great job of with their resources in investigating the murders that occur in the District of Columbia, and we'll keep doing that. She's put countless hours. I remember the day that it happened. She probably was at work 36 to 48 hours, along with other members of the homicide branch. So we will keep on. It's not a case, or any case for that matter, that we will just stop investigating. Even if the case, I think they were mentioned at one point that perhaps is this a cold case. It's not a cold case. She's still actively working this case. So I say that to any and everyone in here. If you have individuals or you know individuals, and this no snitching policy, I don't even really want to get into that, because all of us know if one of our family members or friends of ours that are very close with us get murdered in D.C., we're going to tear the police station down and give that information up. So I think the folks that we have spoken to and the others that we are looking to speak with, if they get this message, maybe they will, feel in some sort of way and bring that information to us, so we can give this family a sense of closure from arresting the individual that did this. And that's pretty much all I can say on this case right now. Thank you.
Like we said before, we have no idea how we're going to raise the resources to do this. But I didn't know how I was going to make it this far and create, the best social justice radio station in the nation's capital with nothing. So I'm a believer in creating something out of nothing. I'm a believer in that once you put the call out there, something happened. And one of the beautiful things is I got a call from a DC legend who said, man, what can I do? And that was worth thousands of dollars right there, just because that lets me know that we're doing something right, And so in order for me to thank him properly, because he's going to try to do his best to get the city behind us and the people behind us from this. Because you understand that this is not just a bookstore. This is not just one life. This is the issue that touches every problem facing our community. It touches the disparities in economics, disparities in education, disparities in resources. It talks about crime, of poverty. It talks about ignorance. It talks about independent journalism. It talks about the disregard of life and respect of others. I mean, it touches everything in this one project, this one campaign. So if he's going to try to get the city behind us and our people behind us, could y'all please come forward, stand up front. If she can, she's my newest intern. Give her a round of applause on where she at. Miss Lena Horn. Miss Lena came with her resume. She wanted to join the fight. But if y'all will come forward, up front, stand with us as we bring Sugar Bear up to say a few words, it would be a powerful image to see all of you standing behind him as we try to get everyone behind us on this campaign. So please come forward, stand up here with us, and when we get everyone settled, then we're going to bring our special guests up front, all right? Just organize yourselves, all right? Who needs no introduction? Everybody give a round of applause.
Yes, indeed. How y'all doing? Wonderful. And you? I'm going to make it real short, you know what I'm saying? I'm just going to say this. God is truly good. And I'm a witness because I came from Southeast. A lot of y'all don't know that. I went to Hart Junior High, Ballou High School, you know what I'm saying? And I had the opportunity to be Grammy nominated across the United States of America. So this is Southeast product. So what I'm telling you, I'm so grateful to be here today because I feel Southeast all my life. So what I'm saying now is on the 27th, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring my band out here for free to help. For free. I pay for all expenses myself, and I hope to draw more people to this cause. In Jesus' name, amen.
Everybody say, ow! Ow! Shake it, shake it. All right, we promise to give, we got to close out with an elder. You
okay, my name is Emma Ward. My name is Emma P. Ward, Miss Senior DC 2011. Miss Billy Smith is our current representative. On behalf of the Cameo Club and Miss Senior DC, we are more than grateful to you for what you're doing. I am a retired teacher. I'm a reading specialist. I just brought two students from 4-year-old level to 2nd grade level. I will be willing, the Cameo members, will be willing to come over and teach your children how to read. And on behalf of the D.C. Office on Aging, we are out here to help all of us. There are more than 104,000 seniors in this city, and we have time. So a lot of times we're not seen and heard because we're not asked. I happened to see this on my Facebook last night or this morning around 2 o'clock, and I said, I will be there. And thank you so much for what you're doing.
All right, that concludes the press conference. Guys, I apologize for the heat. We raised enough money. We will fix the air conditioning in this building, okay? We have a garden in the back. If anybody wants to care to see the garden, if anybody wants to see the dungeon, got you, brother. Got you. Respect. That was love right there. Hold, we got to get one shot together. We got to get one shot together. Get it, do it, get it.
that EU breeze is sure. Say what? What's the name of this song? That EU breeze is sure to please.